Greetings and welcome to Mtok News, bringing you information of the Christian world. My name is Dustin Pfeiffer, and first up on our national news, the Lenten season is beginning next week, starting with Ash Wednesday, which will go for 40 days up until Saturday, April 3rd. During this period of Lent, Christians usually will pick an item or an activity to fast from, so that they can replace that time spent with that activity or item with prayer and growing closer to God. This is a very important time, especially this year. I feel that this is a great opportunity for many Christians to get closer to God and to help mend that relationship that they may have lost throughout the rest of the year. Though fasting and growing closer to God is not a confined to this Lenten season. This Lenten season helps serve as a reminder for many Christians that during this time period we grow closer towards the day when Jesus Christ was crucified and resurrected, which is known today as Easter Sunday. So if you're a Christian and you do want to grow closer to God, I suggest now is a good time to where you really should spend that time with God. Have that fasting period. But while you are fasting, remember Jesus' words. Do not go around, looking like you are fasting, like looking very down and out, like you're very unhappy. He said, carry yourself normally as you would if you were not fasting. Put oil on your head, and so that's why you don't look like you're fasting, and just go about your day normally. And next up, we have a very an important announcement. Dr. Vadi Bakum, a renowned theologian and the Dean of Theology for African University in Zambia, has received unfortunate news that he is now suffering from heart failure. This came after a long preaching season for him, where he would, a preaching circuit which lasted 18 days, where he had preached 17 of those 18 days. So he is asking via his Twitter account, he's soliciting for prayers for healing and recovery, as he's got to make the very long journey back over to the United States today. For treatment and recovery. Now we are going to go head over to John with our international news segment.
All right, well, thank you, Dustin, for those reports. We will definitely be praying for those situations. And let's go now to the international reports for the week. We actually have a good bit of these, so, make sure you're comfortable, guys. All right, our first report is from India, where 7 Christian families have been displaced. 7 families converted to Christianity back in 2018. For a time, there really was no problem. However, back in October, these families constructed a home in which to do worship. They were brutally persecuted by the rest of the village. In December, the families were summoned to a town meeting where they were given the ultimatum of denouncing their faith in a month or leaving the village. When the month was passed, the families still refused to denounce their faith in Christ. This led to several of them being brutally beaten, and to all of them relocating on January 25th. The authorities were notified. 6 individuals have been arrested in connection to the violence. However, the villagers refused to allow the families to return unless they drop the charges of violence against these individuals. So essentially, the village has said, you can't come back unless you drop the charges. So that's India. Over on to Mexico. Protestantism is actually on the rise. According to a recent census, it has shown that around 10% of the Mexican population are now Protestant. This rise has also led to a direct decreasing number of Roman Catholics, as many in Mexico have embraced the Protestant practice of opening themselves up and really valuing the practices of the Bible in their native languages. This is cause to rejoice, but also a time for caution. Many evangelical leaders have cautioned their followers to stick to the scriptures and not compromise for political gain. Unfortunately, this news hasn't been met with joy by all. Reports do indicate that in several Catholic villages, Protestants have been denied access to clean drinking water. It is important for us to continue to pray for this situation, that more will embrace Christ, and that, the persecution can stop. Okay, now we are going to go over to Australia, and this is a big one. So lawmakers in Australia have drawn criticism recently. They are working on passing a bill in the Victoria province that would outlaw conversion therapy. What is conversion therapy? So that is when those struggling with same-sex attraction and desires seek counseling from religious authorities. Basically, this bill will criminalize any who offer a Christian opinion or perspective on this topic. Contrary to what some may think, this bill actually limits the individual freedoms of people. Religious leaders have pointed this out, noting that it is the right of each person to seek counseling on a topic such as this, and that the government has no right to impose their definitions and codifications on this topic. Furthermore, the real threat, some have noted, isn't to the Christian leadership, but to the parents at home. So this act will also criminalize praying for their own children if they fall into such actions. Even if the child requests prayer on the topic of same-sex attraction, it can be seen as a criminal act. This law can be used to separate Christian parents from their children if they refuse to bend the knee and comply with the wishes of the government. The Presbyterian Church have already announced their intention to not oblige the law. They cite the fact that although we are commanded to obey the government, we must not do so at the expense of the laws of God. For this reason, they have announced they will continue to preach the full gospel, condemning any sexual activity not between one man and one woman in the bonds of marriage. Okay, so that's Australia. Pretty big issue going on there. It actually has been seen a lot recently, and several other places have adopted this criminalization of conversion therapy. And again, this would also criminalize it even if the individual wishes to seek it out. So even if someone wishes to seek it out for themselves, it is criminal. Okay, now we're going over to Eritrea, where about 70 imprisoned Christians have been released recently. However, the international community is still calling for more. Many reports suggest that Eritrea has committed numerous human rights abuses and violations. So while we are happy that 70 Christians were released, we understand that there are still more. Reports indicate that probably about 500 Christians are imprisoned in Eritrea. And so, this is the international community is saying, yeah, it's great that they released 70, but they need to release all of them. Over on to Ghana now, in Africa, an all-night prayer service was attacked by armed individuals. 3 members of the Action Prayer Ministry were injured during an all-night prayer service. They are currently being treated. Congregants were able to detain one assailant. It is unclear whether the attack was religiously motivated. In the past, in the area, Christians and Muslims have been able to coexist relatively peacefully. However, there have been reports of growing tension recently. So this is something to really keep an eye on. And it actually leads into our next report over in France. There is concern for a new law proposed in France. Essentially, it wants to end, it wants to rein in Islamic terror, which is good. It wants to rein in radical Islamic terror attacks. But many have noted the slippery slope it would place the country on. It would place all sermons under monitoring to check for what is considered hate speech. Many Christians fear this will be used to keep them from preaching against same-sex marriage and other controversial topics. Also, several political leaders in France have lumped evangelical Christians among radical Muslims in their definitions of groups that pose a threat to the country. So this is a big one that needs to be monitored. We are praying for France. We are praying for all these individuals. And let's go to our last report, which is from China. We're going to end with someone. So in China, there is a man from the Xinjiang. I have no idea how to pronounce that, guys. I am so sorry. Xiaoqun church in the Hingyang province has been detained. His name is Qin Wenxing. I do hope I'm pronouncing that guys correctly, guys. If I'm not, I do apologize. Please understand I'm not the best when it comes to pronouncing names and everything. Anyway, he's been detained for 25 days this year so far because of his street evangelism. He was first arrested January 1st for sharing the gospel. Once released, he went straight back to the streets. He was also joined by his 84-year-old mother. Both were again brought to the station. His mother was released the same day, though he was held for another 15 days. After being released, he was visited at his home by a group of people determined to convince him to stop. He seized the moment to actually share the gospel with them. Qin Wenxing is a motivation for us as Christians across the world. He is a former drug addict who has personally experienced the transformation God can bring, and now he is determined to share that transformation gospel with others. So, while there's so much persecution going on in the world, guys, towards Christians, we can be happy that we have brothers and sisters like this man and his mother who are standing up and saying, we will share the gospel no matter what. This ends our international report for the week. Let's go back to Dustin in the studio now, and that's all for me.
Thank you, John, for our international report. We will be sure to pray for the Christians in those countries, that Christianity thrives and makes a great rise in those countries so the truth of the gospel can reach everyone. Now on to our top news. Ravi Zacharias, an apologist, a well-known apologist who would address many ranges of topics of the Christian faith and rebuttals and entering into many public forums for debate. There was an investigation into misconduct in Ravi Zacharias after his passing, of many scandalous things that he had participated in. Ravi Zacharias International Ministries the board of directors decided to hold an independent private investigation into the matter and has found that there is evidence that Ravi Zacharias committed these acts, and as such released formal apologies and is paying reparations to the people who were affected by this, and set up set out a apology to those families and to the people who were affected by this. They've also said that they are going to make great strides into preventing this in the future, in hopes that the mission of Christ does not become unhindered. A secondary note to this, let this serve as a reminder to us Christians not to hold humans up so high. We got to remember what Paul said: the human heart is deceitful, who can know it? So please be sure to put your faith put your faith in God and not in mere men. Now we are going to go over to Christopher with our media report.
Thank you, Dustin. And now I'll go to the top 10 songs of the week. And at number 10, we have Good God Almighty by Crowder. At number 9, we have Jericho by Andrew Ripp. At number 8, we have There Was Jesus by Zach Williams and Dolly Parton. At number 7, we have Good God Almighty by Crowder. At number 6, we have Battle Belongs by Phil Wickham. At number 5, we have Say I Won't by Mercy Me. At number 4, we have You Say by Lauren Dalgy. I'm sorry if I mispronounced anything, by the way. But at number 3, we have Truth Be Told by Matthew West. At number 2, we have Less Like Me by Zach Williams. And at number 1, we have Graves into Gardens by Elevation Worship and Brandon Lake. And now we'll go back to the organization of the week.
All right, and we will end it up with your organization of the week. So this week's organization is the Wounded Warrior Project. This is a very, this one was recommended by one of our subscribers. It's very personal to them. So, yeah. So the Wounded Warrior Project is a organization that works on providing mental and physical help for veterans injured. It also provides help for their caregivers, their family members, and the veterans themselves. It's a very important project, guys. I've always been moved by their, selfless actions, by what they do for these veterans. And we do hope you guys will check them out. Please do. And if you guys have another organization you'd like us to sponsor for the week, go ahead and leave it down in the comments section down below. Again, this week's organization is the Wounded Warrior Project. Go check out their website. Go find any information you can on them and see how you can get involved and help them out, guys. And with that, this ends our this week's reports from Mtok News. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so that you can join us every Saturday for these reports. And make sure you guys have a great week. God bless you, and we'll look forward to seeing